And it's wonderful because there's nothing like it. There's no religious tradition where you have as many similes and metaphors as you find in the Dhamma, in the Pali texts, used by Lord Buddha. So this one is the sutta comes from the Samyutta Nikaya, which are the linked or connected discourses. Again, if you are unfamiliar with Nikayas, I have given a talk last month here at the BMV on the Tipitaka, where I covered these Nikayas, these bundles or collections of discourses. Sutta is a discourse. Samyutta is connection or connected, linked together, thematically. So they had been joined together according to their themes. This one is connected to the Salayatana Vagga Samyutta, which means Salayatana are the 6 sense bases. Salayatana. And that's what we will be, again, being introduced to in this metaphor. And it comes from the Asivisa Vagga, which is the section on serpents or reptiles. And it is the turtle simile, Kummopama Sutta. From the Samyutta Nikaya, number 35.240. And the Samyutta Nikaya actually has about 5,000 to 7,000 suttas. Fun. But, interestingly enough, the Samyutta Nikaya suttas usually are on the shorter size suttas, compared to, let's say, even the Anguttara Nikaya has some suttas that are very long, and that one has about 10,000 suttas. Majjhima Nikaya has, lengthier suttas, but the grand prize goes to the long discourses, which is the Digha Nikaya, and that one goes long suttas. And I was just mentioning to Brother Leslie the other day how I will be dedicating September, the month of September, sutta series entirely to the longest sutta of all. Guess which one? What? Yes, Maha Parinibbana Sutta, the longest sutta of all. So that will be taking us 4 weeks. So I will divide it into 4 weeks. It's a powerful sutta, and it's a wonderful sutta at that. So let us begin. Again, this one is the Kummopama Sutta, turtle simile. I personally heard this. Again, who's saying that? Who? Exactly, Venerable Ananda at the first council. At one time, the Blessed One was living in the monastery offered by Anathapindika at Jeta's Grove in Savatthi. There, the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus: Bhikkhus, once there was a turtle poised on the bank of a river, waiting to catch a prey one evening. Suddenly, the turtle saw a fox approaching from the distance as it came looking for a prey. So you have a turtle waiting to eat. So apparently it's a turtle that eats fish. Some turtles actually eat jellyfish in the ocean. So they're not all vegetarian. So some are omnivores. They eat both. So now the turtle is at risk of becoming prey because there's a fox approaching. The turtle, realizing the danger, quickly pulled in all its limbs, all of it, together with its head, into its shell, as it waited silently and without worry. Quiet. When we cover suttas like this, I'm wondering if you can even close your eyes, maybe even pretend that you're there hearing Lord Buddha describing it, the story. And him pausing, trying to dramatize it more so that the bhikkhus can really get into the story. They were humans like us, you know. Bhikkhus, in seeing the turtle from the distance, the fox came rushing and stood in anticipation as it waited near the turtle, while reflecting, if he puts out one or more of his limbs or head, I will bite and pull it out fully, killing and eating it right there. So you have the fox smelling, trying to get its nose into any of these openings. It knows that this animal has legs, has limbs, has a head, has a tail. And he wants to bite it, but the teeth, the canines cannot go. But he's patient, trying to move it with its nose. However, because the turtle did not put out any of its limbs or head, the fox eventually went away, angrily and upset, being disappointed for having lost his chance for a meal. This is where the reason why Lord Buddha actually told this story in the first place. In the same manner, bhikkhus, Mara, the evil one, constantly and unrelentingly waits on you as he reflects. Surely I will get my chance by finding their weak spot, whether through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, body, or his favorite, the mind. In other words, we can think of Mara, or another name for Mara, as ignorance. When you're ignorant of what your eyes are doing, when you're indifferent to what the nose is doing, what it's picking up, what the ears are picking up, you're ignorant what your eyes are looking at. You're carelessly allowing things to happen without having any responsibility. That is Mara's favorite situation. Suddenly, you don't know why, all of a sudden your heart is beating faster. You are getting angry, or you are getting to desire something badly. You don't know why. Until somebody asks you a bunch of questions and all of a sudden it becomes clear. Yes, I kept on watching this show, these series of pictures, these videos, these news pieces online, and all of a sudden I hate these people. Why? You didn't even know they existed half an hour ago. Because I was watching this. I was watching this again and again. Now I don't know who they are, but I just hate them. I really want this car. I love this car, but have you ever sat in one? No. But the commercials are so good. They have to be good cars. I want this dress. I want this food. Who's at work? Who's working on you now? Mara. He's having fun with you. He's inside. He's pulled one of your limbs and is chewing on it. But that's not going to be enough for him. He wants the whole thing. We forget to consider impermanence in all things that we see, we touch, we hear, we taste, we smell, we think. Everything is showing us the secret to life, which is anicca. But we usually get bored and we walk away. We like to have one of two emotions. Actually, we're tossed between those two extremes. Either we like something love something, or we hate it, the opposite of like or love. Anything in between is boring. Well, the majority of the time, the emotions or the feelings that we have fall in the range of the middle, the gray area, which is indifference, bored. These are the experiences that they're not so loud, so impactful, so significant. Earlier I was describing to you how it feels when you really need to move your body. It's painful. That's a significant emotion, a feeling of discomfort. That's something, think of it as an extreme. The other extreme would be your desire to move the leg. You just don't want to have the pain. So you want to run from that extreme to the opposite extreme. We don't like the middle. It's boring. Right now you're all sitting. The backs of the legs, your sit bones, perhaps, maybe they're numb, maybe they're not, but they're not giving you a hard time. Until they do, then you have to really move. I was describing this to another student the other day. Even if you have the most expensive mattress, the most luscious, the most, expensive, great quality, movie stars love to sleep on that kind of a bed or a pillow. Even if you happen to be on it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, try a day, maybe 2 days, 3 days later, you think you want to still sleep on that. It becomes a torture chamber. Wait a minute, that was costing you $30,000, $60,000. It was the envy of the whole neighborhood. What do you want? You want to leave? What happened? We went from one extreme to the next. And when the pendulum moves from one to the next, what's going to happen next if it's over here? It's going to move back there. That's what we do. We move from one extreme to the next. Mara loves that. It's a show for Mara. All beings, including the Brahma gods, they're inside Mara's palm. You can think of it like that. Because we all are victims of likes and dislikes. People near their deathbed, they are in pain, they say, I just want to go to a better realm. I just want to go to a heavenly realm. Okay. Next, you go to heavenly realm, let's say. What are you going to do then? Eventually you're going to say, I want something better. I want something better. Right? Like in the United States, everybody from other places that I've gone through, especially poorer or developing countries, they always say, I want to come to the United States. Okay. Why? It's like heaven. Are you sure? Have you lived in the United States? Do you know what it's like? No, but I just want to. Many bhikkhus actually are dying to go to the US or Europe. I don't know why. And here I am from the US. That's a real puzzle for them. I've had bhikkhus ask me, why did you come? It's our dream to go. Why is it your dream? Sit in your kuti, meditate, become enlightened for a change. That should be your goal. Not to get a visa to come to the state. Why? The reason why I'm saying is everybody is longing for something a little bit better. A little bit better. But that little bit better is going to keep you in the clutches of Mara. Because you're not seeing what's happening. You're not seeing that he is fooling us. Why? Salayatana, remember? Let me go back to the story. Therefore, bhikkhus, live while carefully guarding your mental faculties. This is Lord Buddha saying. Bhikkhus, in seeing a form or a shape, do not be taken by its sign or particular features. In Pali, the sign is called nimitta. Nimitta. And particular features, anubhyanjana, it's called. It's like the characteristics. Characteristics. Otherwise, if you were to leave the eye unprotected and unrestrained, then evil, unwholesome thoughts of like and dislike will overwhelm your mind. That's what I was trying to say. Because of this, you must restrain yourselves as you guard the eye faculty, thereby fully protecting it. Would you consider the turtle protected when the fox came? Did the turtle protect itself? How? It pulled its limbs in, its head included. Right? Some turtles don't have a tail. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. The head, that's 5. What's the 6th? The shell. So we can think of the 4 limbs plus the head as the 5 senses. Right? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. Right? Did I leave anything out? No. What about the 6th? The mind. The fox can come and try to bite the leg, which is pulled in. Bite the head, which is pulled in. The shell is there. When you're practicing Sila, I keep repeating, when you practice Sila, what are you doing? You are protecting yourself and everyone else around you. How? Because you're maintaining control over your mind. Restraint. So here Lord Buddha is giving us an example using the turtle as an inspiration for us, as a symbol for us, that an animal can do this. How come we cannot? And here, when Lord Buddha is saying about the nimitta, or the signs, and the particular features, the sign would be simply something like pleasurable or painful. Pleasurable or painful, something that you see. Your favorite dish, your favorite food, your favorite fruit, your favorite experience, clothing, or whatever. Or something that has a nice color to it, or shape to it. Signs, and he says features, particular features. This is when we are taking the shape and saying, no, 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 no. It has more characteristics that are deserving for me to fall in love with. Like when you like someone, or when you hate someone. You see some features, you see some things, okay, it's a man or a woman. But that's not enough. Now we have to write a poetry about the person's hair. We have to convince ourselves and everyone else that no, this person is really special. The way she sounds, the way he walks, the way his eyes move side to side, the way the car smells, new car, the way this food tastes. Oh, you haven't tasted food until you tasted this chef's food. Why? It's food. Give it a few hours, I'm going to go in, in the bathroom. Where did that few $100 worth of food go? No, but you don't understand. So we are always engaged in some form of convincing. Not by the first sign, remember. The first sign is not, let's say you feeling some heat in the room, some warmth in the room is not the particulars in this example. When you start having a relationship to the heat in the room, for example, then it becomes a problem. And that's when we start writing poetry, when we start describing and using a lot of adjectives. He was not listening to me. He is like stone deaf. Or he's pig-headed. You know, we're adding more qualifiers. And then we look for more and more reasons for us to hate this thing or this person. So we stop looking at them as a thing, or whatever it is. It could be an experience. So this is Lord Buddha's way of encouraging us to look at the relationship that I am building with this thing. Remember the sense of identification that we keep talking about? This is mine, this is who I am, this is myself. This means that I have been fooled already by Mara. Because I am now sold on the whole idea of its shape and its features. I'm completely sold. Oh, if I don't eat durian this year, then my life is lost. Oh, I came to Malaysia, I must eat durian. Or I left Asia without eating durian. Oh, my life is ruined. What am I going to... I'm giving you grotesque images, but basically it is what we normally do. One of the interesting experiments that I have given to people is about attachment and how to break it, is to travel somewhere or go somewhere where it has many memorable things for you to take pictures of, but without a camera, right? Or without you taking snapshots of it, making sure your phone is in your purse, in your wallet, in your pocket, without you removing it. And allowing your eyes simply to see that thing. Can we? It's a wonderful experiment because it means that your eyes, you are allowing your eyes to see that waterfall that you just flew 6,000 miles or 10,000 miles with so many different airports in between, so much money, hotels, this, baggage claim, security checks, and now you're there. I have to take some proof with me to my friends to show them that I was standing in front of this waterfall. They're not going to believe me. So are you there for them or for you? Are you there for the seeing of the waterfall, which was the original idea, I'm hoping? Or are you bought into the sign and its particular features? Chances are the second. You're lost. And this is what we normally do in life. And this is where we become identified with it. And because of this identification, we suffer. Ultimately, remember, Lord Buddha taught two things. Two things. Dukkha and Nirodha. The existence, the presence of suffering, and the way out of suffering. So here in this example, Lord Buddha is providing you the way out of suffering. He's saying when you see signs and features of things, before you get sold on the whole idea, before you become mesmerized, hypnotized by saying, that's it, I'm in. Before you get to that point, watch it. Observe your mind, observe your eyes. This is just a form. This is just a form. Okay. Now when I add stories to this, oh yes, this is life-giving water. It's coming from the oldest glaciers in the world. I have to have this. Oh, wait a minute, what am I? I'm feeling something. Oh, I'm thirsty. Oh, now I have to drink it. But it's expensive. It's okay, I can sell this. Let me get this. Again, I'm giving you an image, maybe even an extreme, but the essence is the same. The approach is the same. This is what's happening in the mind. So Lord Buddha is encouraging us to ask, what is happening? What is happening to the mind? What is happening to the senses? When you hear something, your neighbor's yelling, or some loud screeching, breaking noise of a car, or something very uninviting. What is your first reaction? So in essence, this Kummopama Sutta, Lord Buddha is trying to help us to not or no longer become reactionary, because we are reactionary. You see something on the news, that's it. Everybody's like sheep following it. Well, hold on. Let me ask what happened to this thing called critical thinking. We forgot. If Lord Buddha, let's say there's no Dhamma, if Lord Buddha is coming again to this world to teach the Dhamma to this humanity on this planet now, the way we are, he wouldn't have a chance. We wouldn't. We wouldn't listen to him. Because that critical mindedness in the old days from 2,600 years ago does not exist. Maybe in small pockets here and there. People have stopped asking questions. Not to be argumentative. No, just to ask, to find out. What we value more is copying each other, including copying someone else's position about something. Somebody comes and says, oh, so-and-so is an arahant. My teacher is an arahant. You see this a lot in Thailand. And also in Burma. Actually, I have to say also in Sri Lanka, because I saw a video of someone, Anyhow, someone comes and says, my teacher is an arahant. And all of a sudden you have people gathering around them. And now the numbers grow. Numbers grow because everybody's dying to copy everybody else without asking, well, wait a minute. This guy is smoking a cigar over there. How could he be an arahant? There was actually a wonderful story. I love it, hearing it, actually reading it. You might have heard of Maha Sayadaw. He was a very notable, known teacher of Dhamma, a wealth of knowledge. He knew the whole Tipitaka. He was in fact the questioner during the Sixth Council, which was held, I think, in the 60s, late 60s in Myanmar, Burma, in its heyday. And the person who responded, the one who basically had to recite the whole Tipitaka, was none other than his own teacher, Mingun Sayadaw. He's known. So he was a really living library of the Dhamma. So in case we lost all Dhamma, you would just put him over there and somebody would start dictating and you would get the whole Dhamma out. That's a wealth. So they have to take I don't know if they're doing that now, I hope they are, in Burma. They used to, where they would have a year-long almost examination. And someone has to prepare for them since childhood. So anyhow, a person one day in Myanmar, in Burma, has a dream in a village and about Mingun Sayadaw coming to his house. And he wakes up and he's like, oh, he's an arahant, he's come to my dream, this and that. And lo and behold, Mingun Sayadaw is there in that village and he happens to come to the temple. And this man goes to the temple and he's bowing and worshiping and bowing and worshiping, endlessly. And then Mingun Sayadaw, this person gets a chance and he comes and all of a sudden, you're an arahant, you're an arahant, you're an arahant. I saw in my dream, I saw you in my dream. And Mingun Sayadaw says, which is something I really respect, someone of his stature, he says, I'm not an arahant. And the man is surprised, but he doesn't believe him. He says, Sayadaw, that's not true. You are an arahant. Mingun Sayadaw says, but I'm not an arahant. The man says, no, you must be, Sayadaw. You must be, because I saw you in my dream. You were an arahant. And he says to one of his attendants, his kappiyas, Mingun Sayadaw, bring me a cigar. And he lights up a cigar, Mingun Sayadaw. And he smokes a cigar. And the man is stunned looking at him, and he says, Mingun Sayadaw turns to him and asks him, do you think an arahant smokes a cigar? And he takes a smoke. It's like, smoking a cigar. But the person, even though the teacher is saying, I am not an arahant, this person is refusing to believe the person who is the first person who needs to know if they are an arahant or not. That is how stupid people have become. All they have to do is, I was in New Zealand once actually, and a samanera came by and he said, so-and-so Ajahn is an arahant. I looked at him and I'm like, I didn't say anything, I just did this. And he immediately went on the attack. And he's like, oh, you think he's not an arahant? Angry at me. And I said, like, if he is, wonderful. If he's not, what's in it for you or to me? And how would you know if someone is an arahant? Are you close? Like, how would you know? You're not even that close. So what I'm trying to say is people are blindly following without using this, the heart. And the Dhamma is all about the heart. But we don't blindly follow. This is a wisdom path. Panya has to be there. If you have saddha, wonderful, but it has to be controlled by your wisdom. Number one. Wisdom is number one, wherever you look. Puja, wonderful, but where's your wisdom? Saddha, wonderful, where's your wisdom? Respect to the teachers, to the bhikkhus, wonderful, but where's the wisdom? Are you seeing some things that you know are not correct, but you are keeping quiet? Where's the wisdom in that? We have to have courage. The Dhamma is all about courage. Lord Buddha's posture is even telling us so much about courage. This is the most courageous position for a being. When you sit, you're saying, time and space stops here. I am no longer in the past. I'm no longer in the future. I am here. Whatever happens, let it happen. I am watching the gates, the sixth sense gates. I am watching carefully, Mara. Show up if you dare. That cannot be done without sati. And that's what Lord Buddha is saying. Sati is number one. Because it's always bringing information. Your senses right now, even though you're not moving your lips, there's a lot going on inside of you. Where is sati in all of this? Bhikkhus, in hearing a sound, do not be taken by its sign. Even if it's a sound, it might be a really sharp sound. It might be soft, like a mother putting a baby to sleep. Might be soft and tender. Or someone slamming the door shocks you, right? Or the wind blows and the door slams against while you're sitting and meditating. There's a difference in the quality of the sound. So that's another way of looking at the nimitta or the sign. Now what you do with the features of it, that's up to you. Oh, look how beautiful the mother's voice is. She's putting the baby to sleep. Oh, I remember. You're lost in the story now. You've gotten involved. So do not be taken by its sign or particular features. Otherwise, if you were to leave the ears unprotected and unrestrained, then evil, unwholesome thoughts of like and dislike will overwhelm your mind. Because of this, you must restrain yourselves as you guard the ear faculty, thereby fully protecting it. Lord Buddha is saying to the bhikkhus, you keep your doors closed, bhikkhus, and Mara is defeated. You keep your doors closed. Now, some people take this to an extreme. Some people might think, well, I have to live like this. You like those statue of monkeys, you know, like the 4 monkeys or something, 3 monkeys, one closes their ears, the eyes, the nose, the mouth. Is that what you want? Is that this Buddhism is just like so anti-pleasure, anti-life? And no. None of that. When you're closing it, what are you closing it to? My mother had a saying, if the wind is blowing, close the window. It's a simple advice. If you have things in the house, if your papers are there, you're studying and the wind is blowing, the window's open. Close the window. That's what you're doing. I was mentioning how there was a story of a woman who went to this teacher and she complained to the teacher that she always wakes up with nightmares. She sees nightmares at night whenever she went to bed to sleep. And the teacher asks her, well, what type of food do you eat? Do you eat heavy food, fried food, spicy food at night? What time do you eat the latest? Do you drink alcohol? Do you do this? She says, no. Everything sounds normal. And then he asks her, do you watch anything? And she says, yes. What do you watch? Oh, I like to watch movies. Okay, what kind of movies do you like to watch? The next question. And she says, I love to watch horror movies. What? Horror, suspenseful movies. And the teacher says, stop watching horror movies. And she says, no, I can't. I love horror movies. I love to watch them before I go to bed. And the teacher says, then don't come complaining to me that you see nightmares. This person is not closing the door. In that sense, you need to close the window. You need to close the sense door to certain things. For the last several years, I've been trying to, in the States and Europe, other places, I've been trying to convince people not to watch the news, especially the mainstream media that are owned by corporations. They never tell you the news. And if you notice, it's always the same. Flip through the channels, you see exactly the same thing being represented. A little bit of changes here and there in different languages. I realized this when I was a child. Yeah, because my father used to watch the news, but I looked for patterns. And I saw there were some patterns because they would repeat. They would repeat after some time. But people have a tendency of forgetfulness. And that's why history repeats itself. Because people have forgotten. So, you closing the door on the news, the mainstream news, what you're doing is basically protecting yourself, like the turtle. The fox will not come to eat you. In this case, the fox could be something like you constantly worrying. Do you know that the number of depression cases in the world has skyrocketed? Has not become 100% more. It's been more than 400%. Before I left the US, I was still getting every day calls from different agencies asking if I could see more and more patients. Depression, anxiety. These were not crazy people, you know. These were people who were no longer able to handle it because they are being suffocated because their doors are wide open. No one has taught them how to close. This is a technique, this restraint is what we need to be taught at school. This is more important even than math. We need math, but this is even more important. Otherwise, there's no way you could defeat Mara. It's impossible to beat Mara because your sati is not there. You practicing the 5 precepts is just paying lip service. Because the moment comes, the opportunity is there, and you're breaking the sila. And now you're feeling bad about that, which is a downward spiral. It pulls you even down. You can even become depressed because of the 5 precepts. Not because of the 5 precepts, because of your tendency to keep breaking them. Because sati is missing. The 5 precepts without sati is foolishness. It doesn't work. It's like someone who presumes, like someone was asking, actually one of the students from overseas had corrected another student because the student thought that even, anybody who's a Buddhist is automatically not a Putujjana. And we said, no. Even monks are Putujjanas, bhikkhus. If they have not had jnana dassana, meaning at least the first stage of awakening, that is the separation point, the line that separates us. Otherwise, we are all Putujjanas. We're not Aryas. So by simply taking the 5 precepts does not make one no longer a Putujjana. Putujjana is, think of it as an ordinary, crass being who's still lost in rites and rituals. Lost in rites and rituals. Just going through the motions. At best. They don't strive. They don't probe. They don't try to understand. They don't practice. This is a practice-based path. And Lord Buddha is explaining it. You have to pull in your limbs. You have to pull in your extensions. You have to pull in your senses. Don't be reactionary. Don't leave things outside. If you do, things are going to get attached. Be on the lookout. Because this is Mara's domain. This is Mara's domain. Even in the Brahma realms, you are still in Mara's domain. So, bhikkhus, in smelling a fragrance or an odor, do not be taken by its sign or particular features. Otherwise, if you were to leave the nose unprotected and unrestrained, then evil, unwholesome thoughts of like and dislike will overwhelm your mind. Because of this, you must restrain yourselves as you guard the nose faculty, thereby fully protecting it. Have you ever used a public bathroom? Have you ever used, by the way, if you noticed, I don't, use a lot of transition material, I just jump in. And I don't like to beat around the bush. So, have you ever used a bathroom where someone just left and you really have to go? You go in and it does not smell good. Guess what? 99.99999% of us will become disgusted. Will make the face, oh. Maybe even take a step outside, leave, say, forget it, I'm not going in there, it's too bad. If you've ever been to India, some places in India, they can become like that in some places. I'm not putting down India. India is a beautiful country. I recommend going. But some places are really horrendous. But that is what a reactionary person might do. A person who's practicing sati, on the other hand, immediately is watchful at the point of contact. You're not looking outside. You're not smelling outside of you. The object to the organ, nose. Oh, there's the smell, horrible smell, and there's me experiencing it, the nose. Object, subject, right? You remember the pendulum extreme? So the mind immediately says, no, I want the exact opposite of this horrendous smell. That is you seeking the opposite extreme. You are a victim in the hands of Maha. But if your sati is sharp enough to catch it right at the point where you walked in and your nose picked it up, you're not interested in the object, the smell, horrible smell. You're more eager to see what's happening here. You're watching, okay, let me see what my reaction's going to be on this. Oh, there you are. There you are. Oh, you caught it. That is how the fox is never going to be able to catch you. Never. That's why Maha can never trap an arahant. Because the arahant's limbs are all in. They come out only when the fox is not there. Only. That's why Nibbana is not a trance. You just go, no, you're wise. You're wisely present. You're wisely living life. That's an arahant. Bhikkhus, in tasting a flavor, do not be taken by its signs or particular features. Otherwise, so he's going through all of the senses, if you notice. Otherwise, if you were to leave the tongue unprotected and unrestrained, then evil, unwholesome thoughts of like and dislike will overwhelm your mind. Because of this, you must restrain yourselves as you guard the tongue faculty, thereby fully protecting it. In America, people don't eat bitter gourd. People don't pay money to taste something bitter. That's why it's strange for some Americans to come to Asia and then they end up eating in the food, let's say, bitter gourd. I've tasted bitter gourd even in Asia and also in the States. When people make dana or something, ethnic food, there usually is sometimes, but they warn you, if you're in the West, there's going to be bitter gourd, Bhante, careful. Because it's bitter. Yeah, so in the States, people don't understand, like, why are you eating something bitter? So if you're looking at it as a medicinal quality, it makes total sense because it cools, remember? So it has some qualities like that. So that I find to be, or something that is not to your liking as far as your taste buds go. If you're eating some food from a different culture, let's say, that you've never tasted, and all of a sudden it's shocking, not in a good way, what is your reaction? That is, again, earlier we were talking about the nose. This is now the tongue. I remember somewhere I read, I think there are over thousands of receptors on the tongue to pick up different flavors. But just like in the case of the eyes, in the case of the ears, in the case of the skin, we have likes and we have dislikes. Certain textures we love, like satin, the way that I don't know, a soft leaf, especially if it's like newly, freshly opening, or the way water feels when you just, allow it to flow over your hand, or versus sandpaper. Have you ever touched sandpaper? Sharks have a sandpaper skin. One time I touched a shark and it was like, ooh, that was rough on the skin. So we have likes and we have dislikes. If you stay on that level, you will not have wisdom. Because you are on the level of object and subject. Object, the sense object, and your sense organ. Reactionary. You will never learn. And that is what 88 billion of us are doing. Once we die, these people are going to be dead. We're going to be dead, right? In time. Pendulum. Nothing's changed. That's why I was telling someone today, it breaks my heart to see how so many people in the world today are wasting the opportunity of being born alive at a time when the Dhamma is still available, born as human beings, but not doing anything about it. Who cares about just adding more data? Knowing this sutta, that sutta, this, and not allowing it to seep into you, to change your life. Who cares if you can read Pali? What is Pali doing for you? How is it changing your life? So these suttas, they need to be asking us the right questions about ourselves and our approach, our relationship to life. And our relationship to life has everything to do with the six senses. That is how we connect with life. You close your eyes, you close your ears, you close your nose, you close your mouth, you close your skin cells, a connection to feeling, and you close the mind, let's say. Shut your mind. What do you have? Nothing. Use it. Use these six sense doors, Lord Buddha is saying, even through the restraint. That is how we will learn. The only way. And then he goes, bhikkhus, in touching a surface or a tactile object, do not be taken by its signs or particular features. Otherwise, if you were to leave the body unprotected and unrestrained, then evil, unwholesome thoughts of like and dislike will overwhelm your mind. Because of this, you must restrain yourself as you guard the body faculty, thereby fully protecting it. So all the time we have a meditation object at hand. All the time. What I mean by that is, always check to see if you are getting annoyed, angry, upset at something, anything. And I guarantee it has something to do with the six senses. Your job is not to go ahead looking and investigating what is happening where. Just observe in the beginning. Just observe. Oh, I'm getting angry. That is already saying a lot, because it means that you have sati enough to pause and ask a question and not be sold on the whole story. This is you, this is me, you hurt me. I used to hit my foot a lot. I don't have my toes on my right foot. I just have the little toe because of an injury. And the bone is somewhat exposed, so it's very slightly covered with skin. So it's very, very, very tender, very sensitive. And my sati wasn't the best growing up as a child. So I would bang it against things. Painful, shakes you to your, the roots of your hair. And whatever comes to your mouth, you say it. So over time, I realized this is a great opportunity for me to practice awareness and mindfulness. Because it's an exposed wound, technically. And you're going to walk. What if you... The other day, actually, the lights in my room, I had turned it off. And I was walking from the restroom to the bed area. And I thought I had gauged well the distance. You know where this is going. And I thought I was taking very short steps. Apparently, I misjudged because my paces are long, apparently. And the place that I'm staying is not the biggest, but I'm very comfortable. But I slammed that sensitive area of my foot against the hard, very thick, sturdy foot of the bed. Yes, it shook. What a wonderful opportunity to practice sati. So I started laughing. I started laughing at all of these very, very quick activities going on in the mind. I was like, wow. Meanwhile, the pain is intense. I'm like, wow, this is so much fun to observe what's happening. What's happening? So your body is always communicating with the six sense doors. Can we maintain sati? We have to make it so sharp. Bhante Nyanananda describes this beautifully. He says, and unfortunately he died recently during the last few years. He was from Sri Lanka. He was one of those rare monks in Asia who did not want to travel outside. He was happy in his kuti. An arahant. Wonderful bhikkhu. Wonderful. A wealth. A living Dhamma resource. And fortunately, he left us some wonderful, amazing lectures and books. And one of them is Concept and Reality, classic. And I've been trying to narrate some of the books that he couldn't narrate, and he had died before. So now I'm doing the Paticca of his. And so anyhow, he describes this in one of his books, The Miracle of Contact. He says this beautifully. He says, imagine yourself playing a game of table tennis, ping pong, and your opponent is none other than Maha. And Maha is going to serve you the ball. If he serves you, whether he's doing it like over or under, your job is to catch it and to hit it back before it bounces again on your side. You have to be so quick, he says. Your sati has to be so quick because Mara's serves will never end. And he's coming. He's coming at you. So if you sit there and say, yeah, already you lost. That moment is gone. Six sense doors have taken you for a ride. You lost. So can your serves be quick enough, meaning sati? And how? Watch anicca. Especially those moments where you are between the extremes of I like it and I hate it. In between that area is where boredom is, where you don't care, which is the majority of feelings we have. Right now, nothing extremely exciting is happening. Nothing extremely bad is happening either. So many people get bored. That's why a lot of people just go like in meditation. They're bored. But the moment you take a big needle and you stick it to them, what happened? Or somebody cooks their delicious meal, or they're on a retreat and they're like, what happened? They went from boredom to an extreme of I love it or I hate it. But the way you have to serve back to catch the ball and hit it back to Mara is by seeing anicca. Even in the moments, especially in the moments of boredom. Yeah, I was like, I was mentioning this to one of the students who keeps falling, asleep in her sits. And I said, you're not the skinniest person on the planet. You've been eating well. So I don't think you will be sleeping when you open the fridge door, when you open the refrigerator, when you're hungry. Do you ever fall asleep right there? She's like, no, Bhante. I said, I didn't think so. Why? Because there's interesting things inside the refrigerator. There's colors, there's flavors, there's chocolate, there's this, there's that. More and more opportunities for you to not get bored. But a person with sati will see this and say, I see the impermanence even in my desire to maintain sati. So when I am in front of the refrigerator, I have more zest, I have more virya, I have more chanda. But when I'm sitting to meditate, I don't have these. So there's a difference in climate. There's a difference. There's no permanency. There is impermanency. Anicca. So when you are seeing this, that means you are catching on to Mara. You're catching on. You're seeing Mara's tricks. You're seeing how Mara plays with us. But the majority of the feelings are going to be, the emotions are going to be more in the gray area, the boredom ones. Because again, they're not going to have those extreme too much, too often. So use your awareness at that moment when you're falling asleep to say, okay, would I be sleeping like this if I had the tastiest food that I love in front of my nose? No way. If somebody showed me, I don't know, if I like someone, if they showed me a very attractive picture of someone, that person, would I still be sleeping? Or would my eyes just go? Would I? Okay, so what's the difference? I'm not interested in sitting to meditate. Okay. So already your sati becomes stronger. It's a muscle. Think of it as a muscle. You're strengthening that muscle. But we need to practice. That's why I laugh when people say, oh, you can attain Nibbana in your next life, the bliss of Nibbana. May you attain the bliss of Nibbana in your next life. You know where I'm going. What happened? What's wrong with this life? There's no way that any puja is ever going to get you to Nibbana. Period. There's no way that any chanting will get you to Nibbana. Period. You can open with an open heart, listen to a sutta. That opening, that saddha can help you. But without the 3 trainings, forget it. This path is based on the 3 trainings. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. You cannot do it without Sila and Samadhi. Don't worry, Panya will come. If you have these other 2. It's impossible. It's impossible for anyone to experience Nibbana unless they have these 2 criterion with them. And that requires personal effort. I call it efforting. It's a present continuous tense. ing at the end of the verb. It's constant. It takes effort. It takes courage. So even these suttas, can you attain Nibbana while listening to the suttas? Yes. Many people did at the time of Lord Buddha. If you listen the right way, if you don't listen with this intellect, well, I don't agree with that. Well, that sounds nice. Okay, let's see what you have to say. Okay, yeah. Well, no, I don't. You're not listening. The Dhamma has to land peacefully in your heart. Keep yourself out of it. Then you can go home and you can say, well, but you made yourself fully available as the talk was going on, or when you were reading the sutta. So don't approach it in a critical fashion. Completely be available. That's why I like these sessions to have some time in the beginning where you're allowing the mind to come to rest. You're preparing the mind. And then you hear the sutta. Because you kind of relaxed your analytical mind. So, by the way, we have many suttas because sometimes people would ask Lord Buddha, but Bhante, the object, so in the Indriya Bhavana Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, the last sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, 152, you had one Brahmin come to Lord Buddha, and Lord Buddha asks him, so how does your teacher teach to this Brahmin? And he says, the young Brahmin says, oh, my teacher teaches us to close the eyes, to close the ears, and to close, these senses. That's the way to live the spiritual life. And Lord Buddha turns to Ananda jokingly and says, this guy's teacher teaches them to be blind, to be deaf. But wait a minute, deaf and blind people are not arahants. So what's the difference? Lord Buddha is like, almost mocks him. And the Brahmin sits there, the sutta says, with his head drooping, embarrassed. And then Lord Buddha explains what is living the holy life appropriately mean, living with the Indriya Bhavana. Indriya are the faculties, the 5 faculties plus the mind. What we're talking about, the Salayatana. So Lord Buddha describes how it is all about our relationship to the object. It's not the sound. It's not the sight. It's just the sight. Well, how can I focus if that sound is going on? Well, it is sound. Can you use the sound? Like I was describing to you, the slamming of my foot against the bedpost. It's a tactile perception. Okay, it's a painful one. Fine. But it's a tactile perception. Ultimately, it's a bedpost that doesn't have a brain. It's a post. It's wood. And it's a human being walking in the dark. Did I intentionally slam my foot? No. It just happened. There were causes and conditions. It happened. No one did it. It just happened based on causes and conditions. There was contact. And there was, because of the contact, there was what? Well, the 6 sense doors brought in information which turned into feelings. Now, what we do with the feeling is very important because it is going to turn into tanha if I'm not careful. Tanha is the thirst. I like it, I like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. And depending on how attached I am to either one, it turns into grabbing, upadana. Clinging, I don't like the English word clinging. It's like clinging is like very passive. It's like, it's almost sweet. No. Upadana is nasty. It's grabs. You don't want to let go. That's why upadana paccaya bhavo. It takes you to becoming. It ends up being the reason for new birth. It's dangerous. Upadana is that powerful. But where did it come from? It came from tanha. Well, where did tanha come from? Feeling. Vedana paccaya tanha. Vedana, feeling caused that. But in a mind that doesn't have sati, that's why this state of affairs took place. There was an irresponsible living going on. A lack of sati is an irresponsible life. It's a wasted life if we don't have sati. You might be a millionaire, billionaire, you might be the next, I don't know, Elon Musk. Everybody's talking about you. You might be the richest person on the planet. You might own the planet. Okay, that's a wasted life. If you don't know the flavor of sati, if you don't know it, it's a wasted life. I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I mentioned it in some other talks. But there was a man, an old man that I knew in the 90s. And when I still had my business, and I would go and sell them jewelry designs, because I used to be a jewelry designer. And this man, he would find that as an opportunity. He was much older than I am. He was in his maybe 60s, 70s. I was only like barely 20. And he would tell me of this experience he had back in the Middle East. And this was happening in the US, but he would tell me of his time in the Middle East. So apparently he used to be a construction foreman, like somebody who would be supervising individuals, workers. So during lunch break, he would go and have lunch. But one day he sees this area that they were working in. Across from the street, there was this place that looked like a cemetery/garden. So he eats his food quickly and he says, I'm going to go ahead and explore what's over there. I have time. So he goes to the garden and there's a garden keeper, cemetery keeper. And he asks him, can I walk around? And the person says, why? Do you have anyone here? He says, no, but I just have time to kill. So I'm just going to go walk around and it looks pretty. Can I? And he says, okay, sure. So he walks around and he looks at the tombstones. He sees, let's say, so-and-so born 1895, died in 1964, lived 4.5 minutes. Exactly. And he looks at another tombstone and he sees something similar going on. Born 1901, died 1971, lived 3.5 minutes. So he gets, perplexed. So he looks and he finds 6, 7 tombstones like this, and they're not like from the same family. So he goes and asks the cemetery keeper and he says, excuse me, could you tell me what this deal is with this? Like, what is this? And the man starts laughing. And he says, okay. The person lived X amount of years, 70 years, 80 years. Have you had any joyful moments in your life? He asks this old man. And he says, yeah. Give me an example, he says. Or he says, my son, when he was born. He says, that's a perfect example. It was my first son. He says, okay, how did you feel? He says, I was so jubilant. I was so happy. I was so excited. I was carrying my son everywhere. I was so proud. He says, if you put that in a time, frame, how many seconds would you call that if we squeeze it together? He says, maybe if you really squeeze it together, maybe like 45 seconds. He says, okay, good. Let's add that to the list. So he says, any other thing? Oh, yes, when I married my wife, this and that, that was the happiest. How many seconds was that? 3? Okay, add that. So he adds, and all of a sudden you have 3.5 minutes. So, I'm sharing this story because I heard this from him who actually experienced this. But he didn't know anything about sati, this man. A wasted life means a life that has never had the joy of sati, that has never had the sense of protection from Mara when you are restraining these senses of yours, your access points to life. That's how Nibbana occurs. First, we need to protect ourselves. Nibbana is not a myth, folks. It's real. That's why the Dhamma is still alive. It is real. It's not something we read in books, you hear about. You taste for yourself. Ehi passiko, Lord Buddha says. Pacchatam veditabu vinyuhi. It is to be realized, tasted by the efforts of the wise. For themselves. You will know. And that's all that matters. The Dhamma is alive. Bhikkhus, then he goes to the mind. In perceiving or knowing a concept or a thought, do not be taken by its signs or particular features. Otherwise, if you were to leave the mind unprotected and unrestrained, then evil, unwholesome thoughts of like and dislike will overwhelm your mind. Because of this, you must restrain yourselves as you guard the mind faculty, thereby fully protecting it. Remember earlier I was saying this is the biggest one, the shell of the turtle, the mind. You protect the mind, you protect everything else. Remember, where are the other limbs of the turtle? Underneath the shell. What is protecting it? The shell, the mind. They did a research several years ago as to how many thoughts an average adult human being has in a day. And they saw about the number 64,000 come up. 64,000 thoughts per day. Okay? And then they somehow measured as to what is the quality, general characteristic of these thoughts. Is there a common denominator? Let's call it good thought or positive thought and negative thought. And then they were surprised because they saw that over 90% of the 64,000 thoughts were negative. Right? Now, here is where the fun begins. They took those negative thoughts and they ran it through several questionnaires to appraise whether these thoughts, individual thoughts, were plausible or implausible, possible or probable or improbable, impossible. Guess what? They saw that over 93 to 94% of these thoughts, 64,000, are impossible to be happening. But the human brain is so, whatever it is, that it continues to think those 64,000 thoughts, overwhelmingly, the majority of which happen to be negative and also implausible, not probable for them to ever happen. But they can keep you awake at night. You start thinking about the worst case scenario. How is that going to affect your immune system? You will get sick because your thoughts definitely are directly connected to your immune system. Directly. So when I say smile, folks, I'm trying to say improve your immune system, folks. Be happy. Lord Buddha says, we are the happy ones. Lord Buddha, you will never see him in the suttas gloomy. Never. Him and even Venerable Sariputta. He used to come complaining at times. Not complaining, but just about the body. He would say, Bhante, everything is leaking. When he was really, really old. They would laugh at this body. So, let's laugh with mindfulness, with sati. Let's have a deeper appreciation of the Dhamma. Not make it into this otherworldly, mysterious thing that you have to go and chant and do this and do that ceremony in order for you to be getting closer to this mystical, otherworldly, spooky thing called Nibbana. No. No, Nibbana happens while you are alive, not when you are dead. When you are alive, when you're breathing, when you're smiling, when you're happy, when you're mindful, as you're serving back to Maha on the ping pong table. Don't give him a chance. Be alert. Be alert. While you're experiencing the six senses, no one's saying don't experience. It is my relationship to the six senses. That's what turns it into sensuality. People watch pornographic material. Well, it's just a magazine, it's just an image, it's just basically zeros and ones, computer code. What is making it sensual is the mind of the person. So there is the person's role in this. I can't stand my husband. I can't stand my boss. I can't stand this, whatever. Millions of examples. I've worked with some of the most difficult people on the planet, I would consider, at some point in my life, here and there. But interestingly enough, even when I had given up hope on this person being, kind one day, I would see them at one point, or it might be taking me about a year and a half of trying, of showing them humanity, kindness, smiling, when they least expect it. Suddenly I would see them offering me to take me to lunch, or buy me something when I least expect it. Suddenly I would see a gift being offered. This is years ago. But why? Why did they do that? Because you're allowing them to taste humanity. Who knows how your boss, what kind of a childhood your boss has had, or what spouses they have, what kind of world they're coming out of. We don't know. But we're very quick, we're very reactionary. In the same manner, because when you live while being restrained and protecting the doors of your faculties, you too will disappoint Mara, the evil one, as he turns and goes away angrily and upset for having lost his chance. Much like the fox that walked away from the turtle. And then Lord Buddha offers a lovely verse at the end. I love those because even though they're very difficult to translate at times, because you want to get the gist of it and the whole spirit of it and present it. But it captures everything. He says, Lord Buddha says this, like the turtle drawing his limbs into his shell, bhikkhus, collect your thoughts together, standing alone, no more intending to hurt anyone. The one who is extinguished blames no one. Extinguishment is another word for nibbana. So the person here is neither leaning into nor away from anything. They're just very aware as they're protecting their doors. They're aware. Such a person can never harass anybody. That's why Lord Buddha says, I'm not against the world, but the world is against me. The giants always would try to look for trouble. They would try to make these tricks, these loaded questions they would send people asking so that they would trap Lord Buddha. And every single time they would fail. They wanted him dead. He would not engage. Why? Because he's complete. An arahant has got his restraint in check. His sixth sense doors are in check. But unfortunately, most of us are in the passenger seat of our lives. The passenger seat because there's no driver's wheel. We're not in the driver's seat. There is no steering wheel. Passenger seat is the safest thing. You just sit there, relax. Hey, I'm going to be taken for a ride. That's how we live our lives when we don't have sati. Mindlessly. That's why it's an unfortunate, sad waste of a life when we don't have sati. I have many relatives, friends, who are wasting their lives. Making money, beautifying the body, engaging, traveling in different things, becoming very successful in business, becoming CEOs, this, that, buying things. The way the world sees it, they're successful. The way the Dhamma sees it, not so. Because all life has to do is come and scratch the surface a little bit and they become reactionary. They start freaking out. So let's move from the passenger seat, I guess because people drive on this side, so I'm saying, from the passenger seat to the driver's seat of our lives. That means you're taking charge. That's why courage is number one. It has to be. But it's so easy to go and just donate some money, do some transfer of merits, and end of story. Yes, you can build a temple, you can build a building, you can build a stupa, you can build a whole city, a big pagoda under your name. And you feel good about that, thinking that you're closer to Nibbana. Oh, no, you're not. Probably you've even gone farther away. So it is engaging. It involves us to live responsibly. And I will pause here and give an opportunity for questions. So here is where the sutta ends. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I thought there was a blind arahant in the, I think is Dhammapada. And I actually was spoken to Bhante Punyaji. He said the person might be physically blind, but he still mental images. He asked me to check with a blind person, but I haven't checked yet.
The reason why I'm laughing is because I know of I've met several blind people over my lifetime. And case in point, a few days ago, when was it? 2 days ago or yesterday? I don't know. When I slammed my foot against the post in my room, I was blind. But I was seeing images. Of course, that doesn't in any way, shape, and form equate or resemble the world that a blind person who's, really blind would experience. So I don't want to be belittling that. But the reason why I smiled as you were asking me that question is because a couple of weeks ago, this blind person who was speaking with me about certain individuals suddenly shared with me about their impression of this person that they were referring to. They were asking me about this person, and I said, I don't know, I don't have enough authority to say anything about them. And he says, oh, he's a child. I said, I'm sorry? He behaves like a putujana, basically. He's spoiled, he doesn't have any decency, he doesn't care for people, and he's an ignorant little child, he says. About this 50, 60-year-old man. But he's blind, how does he know that? So sometimes we think that it's just the eyes. It's not the eyes, this is just an organ. And many times people think about the chakku, like the eye, as the anatomical eye that we understand, the physiological. When you open up a book on anatomy, what Lord Buddha is talking about, the salayatana, the eye, the chakku organ, is this eye. But it's not. It's actually the function of it. Think about the role that the eye plays, the visual cortex plays, not necessarily just this eye. What I'm trying to say is what the brain perceives, and that is also considered the sixth sense, by the way, manovinyana, which is one that the blind person, I feel, has as well. I've never asked them, but given the conversations I've had with several blind people over the course of my life, they have concepts. And some of them were actually blind not throughout life, from birth. Some of them know what blue is, what the shape is from afar of a cloud, let's say, or trees look without touching them. They have concepts. Understanding, images, residual images, if you will.
No, you see, Bhante, you're saying it's not possible for a blind person to be an arahant.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, that.
No. Absolutely, they can.
They can.
Of course, because any one of these six sense doors can do it. Any one of them. The blind bhikkhu, I forgot the name of it, of the venerable one. Chakupala, right? Yeah. Bhikkhus are always bhikkhus. So they come to Lord Buddha and they say, some bhikkhus come and they say, Bhante, look at this Chankama path. It's all covered up with insects. Killed. Did you see Chakupala doing this? How could he be an arahant? You had some very stupid remarks like this from bhikkhus back in the day. And Lord Buddha says, don't you guys realize? He had no intention of killing anyone because it's dark. Plus, he's blind. He's not going to check, okay, am I touching anything? No. I have eyes, and when I walk, I have to check. Right? When you walk down here, you have many, many ants. So you have to be extra, extra, extra careful, even with your eyes on, that are working beautifully. Your eyes work actually better than mine because I have to wear glasses. Specialized glasses. Even with these, I have a hard time, let alone poor Venerable Chakupala. So I don't, and you have these strange rules that people have set over time, where they became very rigid with the Vinaya rules, where they said, well, if you happen to have any physical deformity, then you cannot be a bhikkhu, ordained as a bhikkhu. You have this, you cannot. You have this, you cannot. Some diseases, understandably, like leprosy and things, because they were, well, infectious. They could spread because the bhikkhus lived together. Eat from the same bowl, and sometimes, well, close to, it's being washed, the person, they didn't have the hygiene that we have today. So some rules you understand, but people wanted to exercise more and more control. And that's what I mean by people being people. There's a lot of ignorance. What the person needs to have is a very, very strong chanda, the desire for awakening. And if you do have that, I don't care if you don't have any limbs, if your eyes are cut open, if you don't have any taste buds, if your ears are completely deaf. But the mind, that's a different story. You need the mind to understand, to process. Because a person might give you tools such as reading, let's say, Braille, with your fingers, you could read. I once met, when I was a very young teenager, I met a girl who was both deaf and mute. She could see, but in order for you to get her attention, you had to come in front of her line of sight. That person could still become an arahant, as far as I'm concerned. But when the person doesn't have the mind in its full functionality, somehow, let's say if a person has a severe personality disorder, it's very difficult, if not impossible. And some type of difficulty. That's why when I look around and I see most of you, if not all of you, healthy, at the very least the brain is functioning, I'm like, that's it, that's good enough, you got it. Yeah, but my eyes, I can't hear well. I have one friend in the States who lost his hearing in one ear and began to lose the other one. I said, still, I can teach you, I can do this. And he's too stubborn to sit. More interested in pleasures and things. Wasted life. Good question. Yes?
You said today's session, the turtle has to take all his limbs inside in order to escape from the fox. What if the turtle is fool like me, forget to pull in the limb and get caught by the fox, then later realize that it has made a mistake and want to fix it back?
Very logical question. By the way, you say you don't know anything, but you've been smiling since last week, so that's already saying so much. So you're welcome, and please don't shy away from asking, and it's a safe place. And I'm glad you have the courage to ask me that question, and benefiting everyone else as well with your question. The good news is that the fox will not be able to eat all limbs all together at once. It goes one after the other. It might have a voracious appetite. It will go after the arm, let's say left, right, this, that, whatever. But again, we have to remember this is a symbol, this is a metaphor, this is a simile. A simile. Unlike the simile, the metaphor, the example, the story of a turtle, where if the fox came and ate its head or its arm, it's a story and the turtle's part is over, it's done. In our case, we have had many, 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 many instances where the fox, Maha, came and ate our head, our arm, again and again and again. And that's what we call dukkha. It's happening again and again. Sometimes in one day you will lose all your limbs. Sometimes it's so severe that the consequences are tremendous. And that is when a person has really done a majorly, like a really terrible thing, let's say. One of the things that is, really terrible in this tradition, considered to be causing a person to never be able to, in this life, to attain Nibbana, is killing one's own mother and father, or harming an arahant, killing an arahant, or causing blood to come out of a Buddha's body, to spill blood. That would make it impossible for that person to attain Nibbana, even the first stage. They have to die at the end of this life, in another life, if they're lucky to come across the Dhamma again. So fortunately, the person hasn't done something like that. But what that means is that you have the opportunity to, okay, you were absent-minded, you did break a precept, or you were not mindful, you didn't have sati. Okay, it's not the end of the world. Next time, so long as you're alive, you have a next time. But don't rely on that. Get ready to answer tomorrow on that ping pong table. Always be alert. Always be alert. Okay. I let this thing bother me. I am still thinking about this interaction I had with my coworker, and it's been 4 hours ago. Today is weekend. I'm not at work. I could carry this burden with me for Sunday, and then Monday morning I go back to work. I'm torturing myself, do you see? Versus cutting it right there and then. Sati will say, enough, it's done. Next time, don't allow it. Sometimes people want to pull you into arguments. Right? They know what your position is about something, and they will still come after you. Sometimes people are just sadistic. They really want to get a rise out of you, as they say. A smart turtle will say, I'm not playing that game. My parents used to say, a donkey falls in the hole once. It's an old Armenian saying. Not 3, 4, 5 times. We fall. Second time, third time, fourth time. A donkey only falls once into the hole because it realizes its mistakes, says, okay, next time don't do that. Because usually a donkey in parts of the world is considered to be a sign of ignorance, even though it's a very intelligent animal compared to us, right?
Bhante just now mentioned about Mala and Sati. I think Mala is waking me up every 2 hours at night. When I woke up, I watch myself, I watch my thoughts, and I watch my feelings. So I watch my feeling first. I start to be scared, and I start to be irritating by it because I woke up every 2 hours at night and with thirst. So I sip water. Then after that, I watch my feelings too. The feeling is fear and irritation. But on the other hand, I would like to know more about sati, that how to bring myself out from mala.
Well, what I would like to approach, how I would like to approach your question is this. Please do not fall into the trap of thinking or personifying Mara as a person necessarily. Yes, we do have him as a person, as an entity, as in fact, as a god. He's a type of a god, you know, from the Brahma realms. Well, actually, lower than them. It's from a realm we call beings who love to control the creations of other devas who love to create. So in English, roughly. But in this case, what you're describing, if you really want to use the term Mara, we can do that. But here the definition proper would be ignorance. Yes, so you can easily alternate the definition for Mara as ignorance. Ignorance of what? Your sati is not there. But you seem to know that he pops his ugly head every 2 hours. How do you know that? That means that there's some type of an anticipation. Anticipatory dread, we call it in professional clinical fields. So the mind is an excellent, interesting laboratory for us to become better acquainted with both ourselves, in this case the body, emotions, your emotional reactions to whatever you're experiencing through the body, and especially your conclusions. Your conclusions. Ever since coming to Asia again, I realized this fascination that people have with ghosts, with evil spirits. You know, I'm turning 52 this week, well, I guess, whatever, this month. I've never heard so much talk about ghosts and evil spirits in all my life. Packed together. Remember that tombstone, if you pack it? I have never experienced this much talk and fascination. It's like, oh, there's somebody's attacking me. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's not like these beings have other things, don't have anything else to do than to mess around with you. It's your own mind often. I'm not saying every single time. Of course, there's cases. But we need to question. It's not the very first thing that should show up in your mind. But the culture where we come from, I understand. Some years ago, I was going to go to this retreat in Penang, and it happens to be close to an old Chinese cemetery. And I landed in Penang, and the contact said, please don't tell the Grab driver, taxi driver, that it's going to pass through the cemetery. And I said, why? He said, because you might actually never get here. Because they might not drive you there, because they're afraid of going through the cemetery. I said, why? They're all dead. So we have to laugh at these cultural things that we bring to mind, including when I'm talking about Mara. So I'm inviting you to look at Mara not as a person necessarily who comes and attacks you. That does happen in some cases. Not an attack, but just to get you off track. Okay? Mara is not like Satan that you find in other religions like Christianity or Islam or Judaism. It's not like that at all. For example, in Buddhism, Mara can never lie. If you call Mara out, he will have to say, yes, it's me. Goes out. We have examples in the suttas. But I want you to ease away from saying, oh, it's Mara. No, it's just, like you pointed out already, yes, you have neglected your body. Okay, so now there needs to be an approach to heal that relationship you've had with your body. So I encourage you to spend time in nature, for example. Spend some time, you're barefoot, okay, go close to a safe place, ground yourself. Grounding means, or earthing we call it also. Go and step on some nice soil, some clean area where you're not stepping on any sharp objects. You know, it's clean grass, yard, somewhere where it's safe. If you have the luxury, go sit under a tree. Get a journal, sit down and write how you feel towards your body. Because this is not something that is just happening to you now. This has been happening through you for decades. Now it's coming to fruition. You're no longer able to handle it because your patience now is running out. But you've always had this issue. I mean, it's been growing though. So now is a good time. Your body is saying, communicate with me. Heal our friendship. Because we were talking about the body as whether a person can attain Nibbana if they're blind. What is blindness? The body. So you need to heal the body in order for you to actually get closer to a better understanding. Your sati will become better. Your understanding of the Dhamma will become better. So many people, there was a leper one time who was hungry. A leper is a person who has skin diseases so much so that they have body parts falling. And he was so poor, and Lord Buddha had just had his lunch dana. Everybody was there. Everybody was eating now. Lord Buddha did not teach the Dhamma until everybody was fed. That's how caring, understanding, and modern in his thinking he was. But everybody was getting anxious because they were like, okay, how come Lord Buddha is not teaching? It's getting late. He was waiting for this leper. His name was Suppa Buddha, a leper. Weak, old man, hungry, poor. And Suppa Buddha comes and Lord Buddha says, feed him. They give him food, and even though he has all these diseases, things, wounds on his face, no one wants to touch them. They usually would have to wear something on their faces because they would be so ugly looking and smelly. So they would have something like a scarf, a thin veil covering their face. But Lord Buddha knew that Suppa Buddha was ready. He was ready to receive the Dhamma. His heart was ready. He was ready to open. And Lord Buddha gives the Dhamma talk in such a way. Poof. And he becomes Sotapanna. Is this possible to such a person? Of course it is. Of course it is. We have so many examples, so please do not limit yourself. I need you to be strong. When you have the urge to move, don't move. Take example from his statue, the statue that we have of him. Hold. So when you move, make sure that it's a life and death situation. Otherwise, don't move. 1 hour is not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. Hold your ground like a soldier, and you have armies coming at you. Hold your ground as if you have your whole entire loved ones, family behind you, and they are about to be killed by these hindrances, nivarana coming. Do you allow them to pass? Absolutely not. You hold your ground. You hold your ground against all these tendencies. That's courage. That kind of dedication is what's necessary to keep your sati so strong. So it's a response. That's what, when you handle the wheel of a car, you're responsible. It's a killing machine, you know. If you're not using it correctly, you can kill people. Or you can help someone get to the hospital. So you have held the steering wheel with responsibility. So what I'm saying is, hold the steering wheel of your life with responsibility. Use the body wisely. Develop a healthy relationship with your body. Care for the body. Write a poem to your body. Say, I'm sorry.
I always worry about my body since young.
That's okay. You don't have to worry too much because you're not going to live forever. You're going to die. Okay? This person who's talking to you is going to be dead too. Big deal. Okay, where did that go? So one of the easiest, comfortable things you can ever do for yourself to bring ease and comfort and just sense of like, is to say these two words. So what? So what? I have family members that I went to before, over last year, and they were freaking out over, mask. Did everybody get their shot? Did everybody? I was like, relax. Relax, I said. Did we miss each other? Do you know something I don't know? Do you think you're going to live forever? Am I going to live forever? No. Did we all get precautionary measures taken care of? Yes. Are we safe? Yes. Don't overdo it. People were overdoing it. 3, 4 layers of masks. Okay, good luck getting a single neuron some oxygen. Stupidity beyond levels. Stupidity. Oh, I have to be. Look, what are you protecting? Pancha Khanda. These khandas. This is going to be dead, you know. Do you ever think about your nails that you clip? They used to be part of you, you know. After they go beyond the cells, you don't feel it. You cut it, it's like, oh, it's a nail. How about your hair? But it's my hair. Oh, it's over there. Do you want to hold it anymore? But you were spending hours combing it. It's like, what happened? It's on the ground now. Don't look at, how about if it falls in your food? Then what happens? See all these crazy measures we have? So laugh at yourself. Say, so what? Yeah, of course I'm going to be dead. Next. What's the other story? But we become so fixated, and the people who are selling us the news, people who are selling us products, they're the ones who benefit. People are making money from those masks, you know. People became billionaires, you know. Because of all the stuff that we went through, they became billionaires. Amazon, within a day, increased its product, its income by I don't know how much, how many percentages. We don't think about these things, but we have to be smart. The old saying goes, always follow the money. But don't become a victim to it, the whole insanity that's going on. Because your body is just a body like everything else. It's going to be dropped dead one day. What are you going to do about it? Use the body. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't waste another life. So that's what I would offer you. Any other thoughts? Yes?
It's time, over time.
Oh, thank you. That was it. That was it. No, did you have a question?
Thank you, Bhante, for that. You talked about Sila as being our protection against Mara, against the sense doors and all. Well, where do you see Upekkha equanimity coming into it? One. The second part of the question is related to it. I very often see the translation of Upekkha as indifference, which I have a problem with, because I don't think it is indifference at all, you know, to prevent oneself from reacting rather than responding to something.
First of all, yes, of course. That's a good question, and I would, I'm going to try to answer it as quickly as possible because I don't want to go over more than I have, unless you mind. Upekkha, it is definitely not indifference. That's a wrong interpretation. That's usually coming from people who've never experienced Upekkha. They never have. And they've never experienced the 7 factors of awakening, the Sambojjhanga, of which Upekkha is the last. Because Upekkha has everything to do with wisdom. If you noticed, in the 7 factors of awakening, there is no panya listed as such. You have sati, you have Dhamma vichaya, which has panya elements in it because you're investigating mental objects, investigation of states. Then you have virya, you have piti, you have passaddhi, you have samadhi, and you have upekkha. Upekkha is also a placeholder for panya. There's no way that panya is going to be indifferent. It is wise. It knows. It's like a parent who's responsible. And the child comes on one side and another child comes and they're fighting. And the mother says to one, stop it. That doesn't mean that they're completely neglectful of the other child. They're knowing, they're aware of what's going on, they're calculating, they're aware of everything, but she is keeping herself cool, calm. Upekkha is so important that without it, Nibbana is impossible. Now, in connection to the Sila part as the protection, if you have broken Sila again and again, you have made yourself completely open. You've left the door open for the rats to come in, for the wind to blow. As I was saying, when you keep the window open, the wind is going to blow. The food is going to get cold. So upekkha cannot possibly happen without sila. Sila, because if you practice sila, it's not like there's a God, there's a Buddha sitting somewhere and saying, okay, did he break any sila? Did he? There's no such thing. In the Dhamma, we don't have anything like that. You have to ask me 3 times before I give you the Panchasila. You know this. But how is it then protecting? It's protecting your mind from ever becoming remorseful. That is the poison. If you break precepts, you make yourself now constantly think about, oh, I broke the precept. I broke a sila. I shouldn't have, oh, what am I going to, I'm now embarrassed. How can that be upekkha then? Upekkha, first, before you get to upekkha, if you notice, there's passaddhi, tranquility of mind, which makes room for samadhi. You will never get into samadhi if you don't have sila. Because sila makes sure that the foundation of the building is solid. Right? Like earlier we were talking about the ping pong table. Imagine if the ping pong table is all crooked. You can't play. You can't. It's all messed up. So sila, and that's another reason why Lord Buddha didn't say samadhi sila panya. There's a importance to the listing of it, the hierarchy. It's extremely important that we have to start with sila, and that is why I laugh when I see people in the West, even in the world now, with these Goenka things and all that, where there is samadhi, they talk about mindfulness, sati. It's like, okay, but where is sila? They do drugs, many of these places. Oh yes. Some of them, yes. I have seen, I have witnessed. You do once a week, once in the beginning of the 10-day retreat, you do the sila taking, and that's the end of it. But the main problem is with this whole mindfulness business that's going on in the world. They've monetized mindfulness. There's a wonderful book written by a professor in California, and he's a practitioner, but he's not a religious teacher per se. He's humble, and he's a musician too. His name is Dr. Ron Purser, and he wrote a wonderful book that many bhikkhus should be ashamed of themselves for not being able to write a book like that. It's called mindfulness. Mindfulness. You know McDonald's? Like McDonald's. Because that's what they've turned mindfulness into. You go all around. You go from IMS all the way to the other side of California, all around the world, there is so much money being made from this thing called Buddhist mindfulness business. You go to retreats at the IMS, you go to retreats in different parts, Spirit Rock, this and that. This is not in America. The place, if you want to, especially wealthy people can only afford it, by the way. Thousands of dollars for a week. How much did they spend to sit at the feet of Mahasisaya, though, if they sat there? People are making money off of mindfulness, while you look at their sila, it's non-existent. You have to practice sila every single day, every single hour, every single sit. You can't just say, we did sila. We did do sila in the beginning of the retreat. You breathed yesterday. You ate last weekend. Why did you eat today? You get my point. So there's this hypocrisy, this careless approach to the Dhamma, and where people have been looking at the Dhamma as another way to make a buck, to make money, and they should be ashamed of themselves. The Dhamma that the IMS or the Spirit Rock or other places are offering, it should be made available for free. The Dhamma is free. It is priceless. Even though they have these funds that they do, they say, oh, it's a joke. $30,000 for, 3-month retreat, something like this. It's a joke. It's all turned into money, 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 and politics. Both of which have to be left outside the Dhamma. There's no politics. There should be no money exchanged. But that's what we have. So sila is the thing which is going to get us back on track with tasting the Dhamma. Because none of these places are actually tasting Dhamma. Unless you have genuinely true practitioner with plenty of merits, who sooner or later realize what's going on and they leave. Because earlier I was saying about Goenka, many, many good meditators can come out, and some have come out because they realize there's something wrong here. I cannot be on retreat or on a pilgrimage in India with these group of practitioners and use the F word. Or think about, when will this pilgrimage be ending so I can go into Burning Man where they do drugs and all kinds of stuff. And you happen to have been one of his students, personal students, or practiced for over 40 years. So there's a lot of questionable behavior which Sila will take and put under check. But as far as we're concerned, that's all you could do. You can only work on it. Nobody's talking about these things. Everybody's afraid of naming names. We're living at a time period where there's no backbone. I don't know of any bhikkhu, any person out there who talks like this. That's why, many people don't like me probably by now. But this is the Dhamma that we have to be concerned about, because we're dragging it down into the mud. So Sila has to come first, then Samadhi. It's not going to fall from the sky. Samadhi. Mental development has everything to do with your moral, ethical, virtuous development, period. Does that answer your question? Okay. Oh yes. Brother Leslie?
I just researched while you were speaking. Turtles can't hide flippers on their heads. Only tortoises can.
Tortoise?
Yeah.
Tortoise.
So
there you go.
Tortoise simile is correct.
Yeah. I've heard some scholars, some Buddhist scholars debate between them.
Yeah.
Some use tortoise, some use turtle.
I just Googled it just now.
Yeah.
Only tortoises can hide their legs and the heads.
Mm.
Turtles have flippers, right? So they flap it, they can't retract it.
Ah.
So, I just wanted to clarify that because he also wasn't sure. So.
Thank you.
Anyway,